there's higher authorities that you could move within the church to get redress, to know that you're doing the right thing or not. Now, most of the time, the likelihood is that inside of the traditional churches, the priest is probably going to say, you need to obey your husband. And a lot of women are resistant to that. That's why in Orthodoxy you see such a split between the sexes. In Catholicism and in Protestantism, not so much. Women are the majority, but women are the ones who are the most resistant to the idea of the submission to the husband.
You had something, Abigail? Or
I think what he's been saying is pretty well said. When we go back to the original video that brought up this discussion, they asked him, like, do you consult your wife? And he said that, he even said just now that he doesn't dispute that a man should consult a wife and listen to her opinion, but he made it very clear that it's situational. And if he says that this is what's going to happen and I don't care to hear questioning, then ideally if you chose a good man and you chose to marry this man, then if he's not wanting to hear your questioning, he's probably got a good reason as to why.
Well, what would be one of those reasons? What would be a reason why you wouldn't want to hear?
It's not your place to question that, though.
Right, it's not
right, but I'm talking about how that's an issue on the guy's part. Like, hey, why are you not willing to hear input from the person that you care about?
I don't think that's in dispute, though.
Yeah, he already said it's situational.
But yes, what can we even think of a situation where there would be a reason to not?
Well, this is the problem, right? So think of it like you would in the military. Think that you were in the military for a second. And there was a general. And the general, right, being a good leader is, sometimes that's going to require a discussion with the soldiers who are beneath your chain of command in order for you to make good decisions based around, the various executions of what you need to do in the battlefield, absent the battlefield, things like this. But if a general comes in and says, I don't really want to hear your opinions, execute your duties and shut your mouth, you really don't have any recourse against that, right? Because he's in authority. The question is not this. Hang on, before you rebut about whether or not a marriage is this or that. We're talking about this from the frame of a Christian purview. What is the frame in a Christian worldview, right? Not from a secularist worldview, in which your feelings get hurt and so you get mad and you don't like doing it, blah, 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 blah. But rather, what are your duties to Christ and what are your duties to your husband? What I'm saying is that whatever the situation is, right, that you would consider rational or irrational, one thing I came up with is, he feels the need to move jobs. Now, perhaps he has a type of wife that can instill doubt in him, right? And he doesn't, for this particular case, want any sort of doubt. She's not a bad person. She usually reinforces what he says. But maybe this decision, he just feels like consulting her for some reason, not the best idea. It's ultimately up to him and his authority and for her to be obedient to his claim of authority. That's ultimately what a Christian marriage is.
Right, but can you think of a situation where that would be necessary? That's the thing.
I just did.
He just gave a situation.
Right, no, I know the whole and when there's a general and everything in charge, but the whole thing that brouut this whole up is the situation of we're moving in.
I gave you a specific situation for moving.
Well,
no.
Now.
I don't know.
Yeah, I still don't get why you can't afterwards
Wait,
have
hold
a
on.
conversation.
I got one. Let's take her. She was in a relationship with a man. I know there was a component of there was a mismatch when it came to he was a Mormon, you're non-denominational Christian. She didn't want to have kids yet. She wanted to be boss babe. And I asked her, well, would you continue working if your husband was capable of providing for you and your family? And your husband said, I don't want you to keep working. I'm making enough money to support the family. I want you to 100% focus. I know you want to work. I know it fulfills you in some way, but we're married. I'm the husband. I don't want you to work. I want 100% of your attention on our children and the household and me. Is that a satisfactory example?
No, because I think you can still have a conversation about that. You don't have to listen to what she has to the input, but I think it's still good.
Conversation at all?
Yeah, if you're not going to listen, then the conversation is.
Well, I think you should. I think that's the issue. I think you should be open to what you're. Obviously, there are situations where yes, it's important to make that decision.
Okay, but so let me ask you.
You're usurping authority from the husband. Listen, I want to show you the contradiction in your worldview so that you can understand it. When you say, you, the husband who is the leader and the authority in my Christian marriage who I have submitted to, need to do X, you are usurping his very role as the leader you're demanding him to be. So when you say you need to accept X input or X thing from me, when he says no, I do not, and in this case this is for the betterment of the household and family, it is not for you to question. If you usurp that, hang on, you are in what is called the role of Satan, right? You're usurping the authority from what you call the Christ head. Not kidding, this is the Christian worldview. The idea that the man is the representation of the Christ head in the marriage. If you're going against the authority of the Christ head, what is that other than satanic? You tell me.
I'm not saying I wouldn't listen to him. I'm saying that it's healthy to have conversations about things.
But okay, let me ask you this. Hold on. I know you guys are raising your hands. I'll get you guys in just a sec.
Guys.
So when you say have a conversation, I don't think Andrew is disputing that the husband can counsel. Hold on. The husband can counsel with his wife, get input from her. But how many subsequent conversations and disagreements and eventually fights do we need to have before the husband gets his will?
Well, it doesn't have to be a fight. It can be a conversation.
Okay, but so here, let me role play this. I don't want you to go to work. I want you to stay at home with our kids.
Okay, we can have a conversation about how.
But how much do you need to? Are you going to just nag me until I bend to your will?
No.
Okay, but how many conversations need to take place?
It depends on the.
Can it be just one? Is just one conversation okay?
Yeah, as long as there's no follow-up needed. Yeah.
Well, so what? Hold on. So what if the determination on my part is okay, cool. I heard all your inputs. You made a PowerPoint presentation. Here's why I want to work. Here's why I want to work. I'm going to be able to I'm going to be happier, and it's going to be a financial benefit to the family because I'm going to be making X amount of additional money, and we can go to the Bahamas, whatever it is. And I'm going to listen there and sit there. I'm not going to interrupt you. You can give me your PowerPoint presentation for why you should be a boss babe when I want to have kids and a family and want you to stay at home, and I can provide. I've listened to it. Wait, hold on. I've listened to it, and I'm like, thank you for sharing. Nah. Okay. No. So I say no. Yeah. What's the next step?
Yeah, I would respect that. Absolutely.
Would you respect that?
Yeah, depending on the case, I would.
What do you mean, depending on the case?
If the husband was fully able to provide for my family, and there wasn't going to be any detriment to me not working, and it would only be a benefit to my children, then in that case, yes, I would.
What do you mean a detriment to you not working? Didn't you say there was like some greater calling, fulfillment when it came to you working?
There is fulfillment, and I think I would find that later on in motherhood, where like kids are going to school, I could pick that up. This is my personal wants. It doesn't need to match everybody else in this room. But I think that for the time being, if it was at the greater benefit of my kids, me being at home and raising them, especially when they're young, I would do it.
So, okay, how about your husband says this? You're married, you have 3 kids, and he's like, nah, you're just not going to work. Maybe he might be like, you know what, once they're all out of college, how about that? Are you going to be happy with that?
I can't tell you no.
Wait, you can't tell me no?
I can't tell you now.
Oh, you can't tell me now.
But I will be marrying a husband who would be willing to have a conversation with me that appreciates, my thoughts as well. And
he appreciates your thoughts, but like he's like, I've heard the PowerPoint presentation for why you want to be a boss babe. I appreciate your thoughts, but my decision is no. What then?
Then that's fine. We can make an agreement on it. If it's a greater benefit, like I've said before, to me being at home with the kids, if the house is taken care of, financials are good, and that's great. Everybody can live a happy life, healthy food in the home, able to live a positive, and
no, that's negotiations.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of submission is negotiation. So the thing is like, let me give you a very clear-cut example, something that maybe nobody can dispute. Women often, due to hormonal regulation, become extremely irrational, especially when they get very close to certain situations or decision-making, right? And sometimes, right, due to that irrationality, I think it's perfectly acceptable for a husband to do things like say, you're fucking irrational, you're overly hormonal, you need to shut up and go away or walk away from this situation. That's exactly what you need to do, and you need to go somewhere, calm down, and you don't get a say. You don't get a say. What's wrong with that? Can somebody tell me what's actually wrong with that? Or are you going to all pretend that women don't have trouble
That's
with
just
regulation of hormones?
extremely disrespectful, and the way you phrase that is in a way that's totally not okay. And I won't even give you an answer to that question. I think it's so ridiculously phrased.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem ridiculous to me. It seems like the irrationality needs to be contended with somehow. Go ahead.
Okay, so here I would be like, all right, so I lived 10 years of my life out of a bag anyways, so I wouldn't care about moving, even if it was to Timbuktu. I don't care. But I would be like, all right, partner, while I pack all of our stuff, I want to know. I want to know what's going on. Why are we moving? But I'm packing all of our stuff. I will do all of it. Just tell me right now as I pack.
Okay. All right. And you had something. Go ahead.
Okay, so you wouldn't object to your wife going to a leader of your church and saying, hey, I disagree with my husband on this, and the church leader happens to agree with her?
Well, it depends on the context. If she's going to the church in order to give them idle gossip or things like this, or talk about interpersonal context that's not if she's going to the church, in other words, and saying to them, there's something here which is not following Christianity, and that needs to be dealt with, then yes, the ecclesiastical authority is designed specifically to assist with that. Just like in the secular world. She smiles as though this isn't true in the secular world. Would you want your husband to go to a psychologist in order to gossip about you and run you down and things like that?
No, I don't.
You'd want him only to go to a psychologist for the purposes of trying to assist with some type of a marriage where one partner or the other thought they were being completely unreasonable or outlandish or doing something that they weren't supposed to be doing. The same exact thing would be happening under a Christian view. The idea would be you're not going there to bark about your home problems, but you're going there to get assistance for things that would step outside of the Christian view. One person's doing.
I am Christian, just so we're clear.
You're Mormon, and I'm not going to. I'm okay. Well, I will.
Okay.
No, you're not.
I am.
From my view,
Okay.
you're not. From my view, you're not.
Oh,
But
that's fine.
The
I'm
thing
just
is,
saying
like
that
that's
might be
fine.
right.
I'm just saying that even inside of the LDS church, this is the case. Even inside of the Church of Latter-day Saints, that you have people that you can go to who assist in marriages, who assist even in arrangement of marriages, by the way.
No, not anymore.
You can go to people, well, yeah, they do. They just don't do it like, the church doesn't go, I'm picking you and picking you. But what happens is the women of the church do matchmaking, and they do all sorts of different things with their daughters and their friends and things like this. The same thing, by the way, that women do even outside of churches. They play matchmaker all the time.
Yeah.
Secular, inside a church, whatever. But the point here is that authority still even acts inside of your church for you to go for redress if a partner is doing something that you consider to be external to the Christian faith, doesn't it?
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. So she does have an option if she does object and doesn't agree, if that makes sense.
Well, it depends. Hang on. Again, that's not correct, right? This is context dependent. You're like, I don't agree that my husband says I have to do the dishes on Sunday. It's not what you're going to a priest for.
No.
You'd be going to the priest for something like, my husband's listening to satanic music in the garage and it's very concerning to me. Something like that. Something which would be stepping outside of the Christian view, not to question his autonomy and authority over his household. That's not what their job is, or the ecclesiastical authority's job is. Now, there could be extra marital things which they could, marital things which they can assist with, specific counseling, things like this, which Catholics and Orthodox have made available for years and years and years, which does assist with things like who does the dishes on Sunday or whatever that is, right? But generally speaking, you're not going to them for those types of things. You're going to them for issues of the spirit.